Hidden Patterns. Introduction. Sarah stared at her laptop screen at 2 a.m., watching her bank account balance blink red. Again. Despite working 60-hour weeks, despite having 3 college degrees, and despite doing everything she was told would lead to success, she was still broke, exhausted, and wondering why nothing seemed to work out for her. Meanwhile, her college roommate Jessica, who barely graduated and never seemed to stress about anything, had just bought her second investment property and was planning a month-long vacation to Europe. What Sarah didn't know was that she and Jessica were operating by completely different rules. Not the rules they taught you in school or read about in career guides, but the hidden rules that actually determine who succeeds and who struggles. These aren't rules about hard work, networking, or even talent. They're deeper than that. They're about how reality itself responds to the way you think, feel, and show up in the world. Here's what's really happening. While you're focused on the external game, getting the right job, making the right connections, following the right strategies, there's an internal game running in the background that's determining your actual results. Think about someone you know who seems naturally lucky. Everything just works out for them. They get the parking spot, they meet the right person at the right time, and opportunities seem to find them. You probably think they're just fortunate. But what if I told you that what looks like luck is actually the result of 7 specific patterns in how they think and operate? And what if I told you that once you understand these patterns, you can start getting those same lucky results? The people who seem to have life figured out aren't playing by different external rules. They're aligned with internal principles that most people never learn. They're not necessarily smarter, more talented, or more connected. They've just tapped into something that creates what looks like magic from the outside. You're about to discover the 7 hidden patterns that determine whether your life flows with ease or feels like a constant uphill battle. By the end of this, you'll understand why some people's lives seem charmed, while others work twice as hard for half the results, and more importantly, you'll know exactly how to shift from struggle to flow, from force to attraction, from hoping things work out to knowing they will. Pattern 1. Focused attention creates reality. What you continuously focus on becomes your reality, and this will alter your perspective on everything, not due to a supernatural force, but rather because reality is literally filtered by your brain depending on what you focus on. You can only consciously handle a small portion of the millions of pieces of information your brain processes every second. As a result, your brain filters information to determine what is significant enough for you to pay attention to, and whatever you continuously focus on is what programs that filter. Remember when you decided to buy a specific car and suddenly you started seeing that car everywhere? The cars were always there. Your brain just started noticing them because they became important to you. Or think about when you learned a new word, and then you heard it 3 times that week. The word was being used all along, but now your brain was tuned to recognize it. This same principle determines your entire life experience. If you constantly focus on what's going wrong, your brain will find more evidence of things going wrong. If you focus on possibilities and opportunities, your brain will start noticing those instead. But here's where most people get this wrong. They think positive thinking means pretending everything is fine when it's not. That's not what this is about. Real focused attention is much more sophisticated than just thinking happy thoughts. Consider 2 people facing the exact same challenge. Let's say they both get laid off from their jobs. Person A immediately starts focusing on how unfair it is, how hard the job market is, and how this always happens to them. Person B acknowledges the difficulty, but focuses on the opportunity to find something better, the skills they can develop during the transition, and the people who might be able to help. Both people face the same external reality, but they'll have completely different experiences. Person A will notice every rejection, every discouraging news story about the economy, and every reason why their situation is hopeless. Person B will notice job openings that match their skills, helpful networking opportunities, and success stories of people who found better positions after being laid off. Real focused attention means being intentional about where you direct your mental energy. When you wake up in the morning, are you immediately thinking about your problems, checking your phone for bad news, and rehearsing your worries, or are you focusing on what you want to create that day? Lisa, a teacher I know, was constantly stressed about her students' behavior problems. Every day she'd come to work expecting chaos and spent her mental energy thinking about which kids would act up. And every day she got exactly what she expected. Her focus on problem behavior was literally programming her brain to notice every disruption, every sign of disrespect, every reason to feel frustrated. One day, she decided to try something different. Instead of focusing on problem students, she started noticing which students were engaged and helpful. She began each day by looking for moments of curiosity, cooperation, and creativity in her classroom. Within 2 weeks, her entire classroom dynamic shifted. Same kids, same school, different focus, completely different reality. The problem behaviors didn't disappear overnight, but they became background noise instead of the main event. Meanwhile, the positive behaviors she was now noticing began to increase, because what you pay attention to literally grows. This isn't just about perception, it's about how your focus shapes your actions. When Lisa was focused on problems, her energy was defensive and reactive. When she focused on positive engagement, her energy became inspiring and proactive. Her students responded to this shift in her presence, creating a positive feedback loop. Your brain is always looking for evidence to confirm what you're focusing on. This is called confirmation bias, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping your experience of reality. The question is, what are you training it to find? If you focus on how people can't be trusted, you'll notice every broken promise and every disappointment. If you focus on how kind people can be, you'll notice every small act of generosity and consideration. If you focus on how opportunities are scarce, you'll see every closed door and every reason why things won't work out. If you focus on how possibilities are everywhere, you'll notice chances you never saw before. The most successful people understand this principle instinctively. They've trained themselves to focus on solutions rather than problems, on what's possible rather than what's wrong, on what they can control rather than what they can't. This doesn't make them naive or unrealistic. It makes them effective. Here's the practical application. Your focus is like a flashlight in a dark room. Whatever you point it toward becomes visible and real to you. Everything else fades into the background. You get to choose where to point that flashlight every single moment of every single day. The people who seem naturally lucky aren't experiencing different circumstances. They're just focusing on different aspects of their circumstances. They've trained their attention to notice opportunities, connections, and possibilities that others miss because others are focused elsewhere. Your brain is the most sophisticated filtering system ever created, and you are its programmer. Every time you choose what to focus on, you're literally rewiring your neural pathways and reshaping your experience of reality. The question isn't whether this is happening, it's whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. Pattern 2. Your energy affects everything around you. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the tension, even though nobody said anything, or met someone who just made you feel good without them doing anything special? That's energy in action, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping your daily experience. You're constantly broadcasting your internal state to everyone around you, not through words or actions, but through subtle signals that people pick up unconsciously. Your posture, your breathing, the tone of your voice, even the way you occupy space. These signals communicate your emotional state faster than any conversation ever could. When you're anxious, people pick up on that energy and respond differently to you. They might feel uncomfortable without knowing why, or they might unconsciously start doubting your capabilities. When you're genuinely confident and at peace, people are naturally drawn to you. They feel safe and inspired in your presence, even if they can't explain exactly why. This isn't just about first impressions, though those matter enormously. Your energy affects how people treat you, what opportunities come your way, what kinds of situations you find yourself in, and even how events unfold around you. Think about the difference between these two scenarios. You walk into a job interview feeling desperate because you really need this position. Your rent is due, your savings are depleted, and this feels like your last shot. That desperation seeps into every aspect of your presentation. Your handshake is too eager, your answers are too rehearsed, and you're trying so hard to impress that you come across as inauthentic. Now imagine walking into the same interview feeling curious and confident. You've done your research, you know you have value to offer, and you're genuinely interested in learning whether this role would be a good mutual fit. Your handshake is firm but relaxed. Your answers are conversational and genuine, and you're present enough to ask thoughtful questions. Same person, same qualifications, same company, but completely different energy. And that energy difference will likely determine the outcome more than any technical qualification on your resume. Mike used to complain that he always attracted drama. His relationships were chaotic, his work environment was toxic, and he seemed to constantly deal with difficult people. He thought he was just unlucky with the people in his life, but Mike was unknowingly broadcasting anxiety and neediness that attracted exactly the kinds of people and situations he wanted to avoid. Here's what was happening. Mike was so worried about being rejected or abandoned that he came across as desperate for approval. This neediness made emotionally healthy people uncomfortable, so they naturally kept their distance. Meanwhile, it attracted people who were either equally needy or who enjoyed having power over someone who seemed vulnerable. Mike's energy was essentially saying, "Please don't leave me, I'll do anything to keep you here," which paradoxically pushed away the people who would treat him well and attracted those who would take advantage of his desperation. When Mike learned to manage his internal state first, to feel secure and valuable regardless of how others responded, his external world completely changed. He started attracting healthier relationships and better opportunities, not because he learned new social skills, but because he was broadcasting a different energy. The shift happened when Mike realized that his security and worth couldn't depend on other people's responses to him. He started doing things that made him feel proud of himself, exercising regularly, keeping his commitments, pursuing interests that genuinely excited him. As his internal sense of worth stabilized, his energy changed from needy to naturally attractive. This principle works in every area of life. Salespeople who genuinely care about helping their clients find the right solution outsell those who are just trying to hit their numbers. Teachers who bring enthusiasm and care to their classrooms get better responses from students than those who are just going through the motions. Leaders who operate from genuine confidence and service inspire loyalty in ways that authoritarian managers never can. Your energy is also contagious. If you're consistently stressed and complaining, the people around you will start feeling more stressed. If you bring calm, problem-solving energy to challenges, others will feel more capable of handling their own difficulties. If you operate from generosity and abundance, people around you start thinking more generously too. This is why it's so important to manage your internal state before trying to change your external circumstances. When you feel scattered, anxious, or desperate, that energy broadcasts to everyone around you and actually makes it harder to get the results you want. The most magnetic people understand this instinctively. They know that how they feel internally determines how others respond to them externally, so they take responsibility for their own energy before walking into important situations. Think about the energy you're putting out right now. When you interact with people today, are you coming from a place of confidence and contribution, or anxiety and need? Are you broadcasting calm competence or frantic urgency? Are you emanating genuine care for others or hidden desperation for their approval? The energy you bring to any situation largely determines what you get back from it. This isn't mystical, it's practical psychology. People respond to your emotional state before they respond to your words, and that response shapes everything that happens next. The beautiful thing about energy is that it's completely within your control. You can't control other people's responses, but you can absolutely control the signal you're broadcasting. And when you consistently broadcast positive, confident, generous energy, the world responds accordingly. Pattern 3. You can only receive what you believe you deserve. This one might sting a little, but it's crucial. You will never consistently have more than what you deep down believe you deserve. Your unconscious beliefs about your own worth act like an invisible ceiling on what you allow yourself to receive and keep. You might consciously want more money, better relationships, or greater success, You might work hard, make plans, and take action toward your goals. But if there's a part of you that doesn't feel worthy of those things, you'll unconsciously sabotage yourself every time you get close. This self-sabotage rarely looks dramatic. It's usually subtle, showing up a little late to important meetings, not following up on promising opportunities, making decisions that prioritize short-term comfort over long-term benefit, or finding reasons to reject good things when they come your way. Jenny always said she wanted to be in a loving relationship, but every time she met someone genuinely kind and interested in her, she'd find reasons to push them away. She'd convince herself they were too good to be true, or that something must be wrong with them if they liked her. She'd pick fights over small issues, or suddenly become unavailable when things started getting serious. Meanwhile, she kept attracting people who treated her poorly, men who were emotionally unavailable, critical, or who clearly saw her as a temporary option rather than a priority. And ironically, these were the relationships she'd fight to maintain, even when they made her miserable. The painful truth was that Jenny had grown up with critical parents who made love feel conditional. She learned early that affection had to be earned through perfect behavior, and even then, it could be withdrawn at any moment. Deep down, she didn't believe she was worthy of unconditional love, so she kept recreating familiar patterns where she had to struggle and prove herself to get even minimal affection. When someone showed up offering genuine care without demanding that she earn it, her unconscious mind couldn't compute it. It felt foreign and unsafe because it didn't match her internal programming about how love works. So she'd unconsciously create conflict or distance to restore the familiar dynamic of having to earn affection through effort and sacrifice. This pattern shows up everywhere in life. There's the person who lands a great job, but then shows up late and unprepared, unconsciously trying to confirm their belief that they don't belong in that position. There's the entrepreneur who gets their business to a certain income level and then mysteriously makes decisions that sabotage their growth, raising prices too high, taking on difficult clients, or neglecting marketing, because they don't believe they deserve to be that successful. There's the person who loses weight but then gains it all back, because part of them doesn't believe they deserve to feel attractive and confident. There's the student who performs well all semester but then doesn't study for the final exam, because deep down they don't believe they're smart enough to actually succeed. Your worthiness programming was largely installed during childhood through thousands of small interactions with parents, teachers, and peers. If you were consistently treated as valuable and capable, you probably developed a strong sense of inherent worth. If love and approval were conditional on performance, you likely developed the belief that you have to earn good things through struggle and achievement. If you were criticized frequently or compared unfavorably to others, you might have internalized the message that you're somehow defective or less deserving than other people. If your family struggled financially, you might have unconscious beliefs that money is scarce or that wanting more makes you greedy. The pernicious aspect of worthiness programming is that it functions subconsciously. Even while you truly want the best for yourself, there's a part of you that's always looking for proof that you don't deserve it or that it won't last. Psychologists refer to this internal conflict as approach avoidance conduct, in which you make progress toward your goals, then unintentionally destroy them when you are almost there. It's similar to simultaneously pressing the brake and the gas pedal. The shift happens when you start recognizing that your worth isn't determined by your achievements, your appearance, your productivity, or what others think of you. Your value is inherent. You deserve good things simply because you exist, not because you've earned them through suffering or perfection. This doesn't mean being entitled or expecting things to be handed to you without effort. It means recognizing that you're worthy of putting in effort toward things that matter to you, and that you deserve to enjoy the results of that effort without guilt or fear. Practical worthiness work means treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show a good friend. It means stopping the internal criticism and starting to speak to yourself like someone you care about. It means allowing yourself to want things without justifying why you deserve them. It means accepting compliments instead of deflecting them. It means asking for help when you need it, instead of trying to prove you can handle everything alone. It means setting boundaries with people who treat you poorly instead of accepting bad treatment as normal. Most importantly, it means recognizing that everyone deserves basic respect, kindness, and opportunity, including you. When you truly believe this at a cellular level, you'll stop settling for less than you deserve and start creating space for the good things that are trying to come into your life. Pattern 4. Desperation repels what you want. Here's a paradox that explains why trying harder often makes things worse. The more desperately you need something, the more likely you are to push it away. When you're desperate for a relationship, you come across as needy, which repels the very connection you're seeking. When you're desperate for money, you make poor decisions based on fear rather than wisdom. When you're desperate for approval, you become someone others can't respect. Desperation broadcasts the energy of not enough worth, not enough trust, not enough security, and that energy creates the very shortage you're trying to avoid. Alex was desperate to land a high-paying job. He'd been unemployed for 6 months and his savings were running out. Every interview became a high-stakes situation where he tried too hard to impress. He came across as anxious and unsure, which made employers question his competence. When Alex finally stopped approaching interviews from desperation and started seeing them as conversations to determine mutual fit, everything changed. He stopped trying to be what he thought they wanted and started being genuinely himself. Within a month, he had 2 job offers. The shift from desperation to determination changes everything. When you want something because it would enhance your already good life, rather than because you need it to finally be happy, you approach it from a completely different energy. This doesn't mean being passive or not caring about your goals. It means pursuing them from a place of trust rather than fear, knowing that your happiness and security don't depend on any specific outcome. Pattern 5. Internal harmony creates external flow. Think about a time when everything in your life seemed to flow effortlessly. Opportunities appeared at the perfect moment. People said yes to your requests. Problems resolved themselves quickly. And you felt like you were in sync with life itself. You were probably in a state where your thoughts, feelings, and actions were all aligned. When you're internally harmonious, external life becomes almost magical. Most people live in constant internal conflict, and that conflict creates chaos in their external world. They want one thing but believe another is possible. They set goals that don't match their values. They say yes when they mean no, and no when they mean yes. They pursue objectives that look impressive, but don't actually fulfill them. This internal chaos creates external confusion, resistance, and struggle. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are all pointing in the same direction, you tap into a level of power and effectiveness that seems almost supernatural. It's like the difference between a laser beam and a regular light bulb. A light bulb spreads energy in all directions and can barely illuminate a room. A laser focuses the same amount of energy in one direction and can cut through metal. Rachel wanted to start her own business, but was terrified of failure. For months, she'd take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. She'd work on her business plan late into the night, feeling excited and motivated. Then she'd spend the next day researching all the ways businesses fail, reading scary statistics about startup failure rates, and talking herself out of moving forward. She'd network with potential clients and make promising connections, then not follow up because she was afraid of seeming pushy or being rejected. She'd create marketing materials and then not post them because they didn't feel perfect. She'd save money to invest in her business and then spend it on something else because she convinced herself she wasn't ready yet. Her internal conflict, wanting success but fearing failure, created external confusion. Nothing gained momentum because she was simultaneously pressing the gas and the brake. Her potential clients couldn't figure out what she was offering because she kept changing her message. Her family and friends couldn't support her because they couldn't tell if she was serious about the business or just playing with ideas. The turning point came when Rachel got brutally honest about what mattered most to her. She realized that her fear of failure was actually smaller than her fear of regret. She'd rather try and fail than spend the rest of her life wondering what might have been. More importantly, she clarified that her real goal wasn't to avoid failure. It was to create freedom and help people solve problems. Once her desire became stronger and clearer than her fear, her actions became consistent and focused. Her business took off within 6 months because all of her energy was finally moving in the same direction. Internal harmony requires several levels of alignment. First, there's mental alignment, making sure your conscious goals match your unconscious beliefs and values. If you're trying to build a business but secretly believe that money is evil or that successful people are selfish, you'll sabotage yourself every time you start making progress. Second, there's emotional alignment, ensuring that your goals genuinely excite you rather than just looking good on paper. Many people pursue careers, relationships, or lifestyles because they think they should want them, not because they actually do. When your goals don't align with your authentic desires, you'll lack the emotional fuel needed to persist through challenges. Third, there's behavioral alignment, making sure your daily actions consistently support your stated priorities. You can't say that health is important while eating junk food every day. You can't claim that relationships matter while spending all your time at work. You can't declare that personal growth is a priority while consuming nothing but entertainment and avoiding anything challenging. Internal harmony also means being honest about your capacity and limitations. Many people create internal conflict by trying to be someone they're not, or pursue goals that don't match their natural strengths and interests. There's nothing wrong with being an introvert who needs quiet time to recharge, but you'll create internal chaos if you force yourself to pursue a career that requires constant social interaction. Similarly, there's nothing wrong with being someone who thrives on variety and stimulation, but you'll feel miserable if you choose a routine, predictable lifestyle because you think it's more stable or responsible. Making decisions is considerably simpler when you are in internal harmony because you have precise standards by which to judge options. Are my values in line with this opportunity? Does it help me achieve my main objectives? Does it make me feel energized or exhausted? In 5 years, will I be pleased with this decision? Because they're not battling themselves all the time. Those who are in internal harmony also feel less stressed and anxious. Instead of feeling dispersed and conflicted, you feel integrated and whole when your ideas, feelings, and behaviors are in harmony. External results improve dramatically when you achieve internal harmony because you're no longer sending mixed signals to the world. People can sense when someone is genuine and consistent, and they respond with more trust and support. Opportunities appear because you're clear about what you want and consistent in your actions to achieve it. Internal harmony doesn't mean perfection or never experiencing doubt or conflict. It means having a clear center that you return to when life gets complicated. It means knowing what matters most to you and making decisions from that clarity rather than from fear, pressure, or trying to please others. The most successful and fulfilled people understand this principle intuitively. They've learned to check in with themselves regularly and course correct when they notice internal misalignment. They make choices based on what feels authentic and sustainable rather than what looks impressive or seems like it should make them happy. Pattern 6. What you give others comes back to you. This might sound like a platitude, but it's actually one of the most practical principles for creating the life you want. The way you treat others sets the standard for how the world treats you. Not because the universe is keeping score, but because of how human psychology and social dynamics actually work. When you consistently show up with integrity, kindness, and genuine care for others' well-being, you create a reputation and energy that attracts people who will treat you the same way. When you operate from selfishness, manipulation, or disregard for others, you attract people and situations that reflect those same qualities back to you. This happens through several mechanisms. First, there's the direct reciprocity effect. People tend to mirror the energy and treatment they receive from you. If you're consistently helpful and respectful, people naturally want to help and respect you in return. If you're consistently selfish or dismissive, people will treat you with the same lack of consideration. Second, there's the reputation effect. Your consistent behavior creates a reputation that precedes you into new situations. People talk, and word spreads about how you operate. If you're known for being reliable and generous, People will give you opportunities and support. If you're known for being unreliable or taking advantage of others, people will be cautious and protective around you. Third, there's what psychologists call the similarity attraction principle. People naturally gravitate toward others who share their values and approach to life. If you operate with integrity and kindness, you'll attract other people who value integrity and kindness. If you operate from manipulation and self-interest, you'll attract people who think that's normal and acceptable. David was known for cutting corners and not following through on his commitments. He'd agree to help friends move and then not show up, leaving them scrambling to find other assistance. He'd promise clients delivery dates he knew he couldn't meet, then blame circumstances beyond his control when he was late. He'd borrow money from family members and forget to pay it back until they had to ask multiple times. David couldn't understand why people didn't trust him with bigger opportunities, or why his relationships were shallow and unreliable. He was constantly frustrated that people weren't more loyal or supportive. He didn't see that he was experiencing the exact energy he was putting out into the world. In his mind, the small commitments didn't matter that much. He thought people should understand that life happens and plans change. He believed that being too rigid about keeping promises was unnecessarily stressful and that people should be more flexible and forgiving. But what David didn't realize was that every broken commitment was a deposit into people's perception of who he was and how he operated. When he consistently showed that his word wasn't reliable, people unconsciously classified him as someone who couldn't be counted on for important things. The turning point came when David's brother needed emergency surgery and asked David to take care of his kids for the week. David immediately said yes, but then his brother hesitated and said he'd rather ask someone else because he needed to be sure the kids would be properly cared for. That moment of being passed over for something truly important was a wake-up call. David realized that his pattern of small betrayals had cost him his family's trust when it really mattered. He started honoring his word on everything, only making commitments he could keep and following through on everything he promised, no matter how small. The change wasn't immediate, but within 6 months, his entire social and professional world transformed. People started recommending him for better positions because they knew he'd deliver quality work on time. Friends began including him in important events and conversations because they trusted his discretion. Family members started asking for his help with significant matters because they knew he'd follow through. This principle extends far beyond just keeping your word. It includes how you treat service workers, how you respond to people who can't do anything for you, how you handle conflicts, and how you behave when no one is watching. If you're consistently rude to waiters, cashiers, or customer service representatives, you're training yourself to be someone who treats people poorly when you have power over them. And that energy will show up in all your relationships, making people unconsciously wary of giving you any kind of authority or influence. If you gossip about friends when they're not around, people will naturally assume you gossip about them too, which makes them less likely to trust you with sensitive information or include you in their inner circle. If you take credit for others' work or fail to acknowledge help you've received, people will be less inclined to collaborate with you or support your projects. On the flip side, if you consistently acknowledge others' contributions, treat everyone with basic respect, regardless of their status, and follow through on your commitments, you build a reputation that opens doors and creates opportunities. The most successful people understand this principle intuitively. They know that every interaction is an investment in their future. They treat their assistant with the same respect they show their boss because they understand that character is revealed in how you treat people who can't benefit you. This isn't about being perfect or never making mistakes. Everyone has bad days and occasionally falls short of their own standards. It's about your consistent pattern of behavior and the general energy you bring to your interactions with others. The beautiful thing about this principle is that it creates a positive feedback loop. When you treat others well, they treat you well, which makes you feel good about yourself and humanity in general, which makes you want to treat others even better. When you operate from selfishness or disregard, you attract that same energy back, which makes you feel defensive and suspicious, which leads to treating others even worse. You get to choose which cycle you want to participate in. Every interaction is an opportunity to invest in the kind of world you want to live in. When you show up with honor and integrity, you're programming the universe to show up for you the same way. Pattern 7. Your individual success affects everyone. Here's something most people never consider. Your success makes success easier for everyone around you, and everyone else's success makes your success easier too. Success isn't a limited resource where someone else winning means you lose. It's more like a contagious energy that spreads through communities, families, and social networks. This happens through what sociologists call social proof and collective efficacy. When people around you are thriving, it creates an environment where thriving becomes normal and expected. When you're surrounded by people who are broke, stressed, and complaining about life, that energy affects you. You start to believe that struggle is normal and success is rare. But when you're around people who are creating the lives they want, solving problems creatively, and finding opportunities where others see obstacles, you start to see those things as possible for you too. Their success becomes evidence that success is achievable, which changes what you believe is possible for yourself. Maria grew up in a neighborhood where nobody went to college, and most people worked minimum-wage jobs their entire lives. The dominant conversation was about how the system was rigged against people like them, how education was too expensive, and how good opportunities only went to people with connections they didn't have. Maria believed that narrative until she got a scholarship to a university where she was suddenly surrounded by people planning careers, starting businesses, and thinking strategically about their futures. These weren't wealthy kids who had everything handed to them. Many came from backgrounds similar to hers, but they had been exposed to different expectations and possibilities. Being around people who expected success changed what Maria thought was possible for herself. She started studying engineering not because she was naturally better at math than her childhood friends, but because she was surrounded by people who saw challenging careers as normal and achievable. She learned to think in terms of solutions rather than problems, opportunities rather than obstacles, and long-term strategy rather than just getting by day to day. She ended up becoming a successful engineer and eventually starting her own consulting firm, not because she was inherently more capable than her childhood friends, but because she was exposed to different beliefs about what was possible. This works both ways. When you start succeeding and thriving, you give everyone around you permission to do the same. Your success becomes proof that it's possible, which makes it easier for others to believe they can achieve it too. When you break through limiting beliefs in your own life, you literally make it easier for others to break through the same barriers. When you create a business, other people in your network start thinking about entrepreneurship. When you improve your health and fitness, people around you start paying more attention to their own wellness. When you develop a skill or pursue education, others start considering their own growth opportunities. This happens through several mechanisms. First, there's the modeling effect. People learn by watching others who are similar to them. When someone from their same background, with similar resources and challenges, achieves something significant, it becomes concrete proof that such an achievement is possible. Second, there's the resource-sharing effect. Successful people naturally become hubs of information, connections, and opportunities. As you grow and develop, you gain access to knowledge and networks that you can share with others. You become a bridge between the community you came from and the opportunities you've discovered. Third, there's the mindset shift that happens when people see success as normal rather than exceptional. In communities where struggle is the dominant narrative, success can feel like winning the lottery, possible but extremely unlikely. But when success becomes more common in your immediate environment, it starts feeling achievable rather than miraculous. The ripple effects can be profound. When Maria became an engineer, she stayed connected to her old neighborhood and started mentoring young people who were interested in STEM careers. Several of them went on to pursue technical education, and some of those students started mentoring others. What began with one person's success created expanding opportunities for dozens of others. This pattern isn't limited to professional success. When you develop a healthy relationship with yourself and others, you model what healthy relationships look like for everyone around you. When you learn to manage money wisely, you can share that knowledge with family and friends. When you develop emotional intelligence and conflict resolution skills, you help create more harmony in all your relationships. The converse is also true. When you stay stuck in limiting beliefs and self-destructive patterns, you unconsciously reinforce those patterns for others around you. When you complain constantly about how unfair life is, you strengthen the narrative that victimhood is normal. When you avoid taking risks or pursuing opportunities because you're afraid of failure, you reinforce the belief that such risks aren't worth taking. This doesn't mean you're responsible for everyone else's choices or that you should feel guilty for struggling. Everyone has their own journey and their own lessons to learn, but it does mean that your growth contributes to collective growth, and collective growth makes individual growth easier. The most successful and fulfilled people understand this interconnectedness. They know that lifting others up lifts them up too, and that creating opportunities for others creates more opportunities for everyone. They operate from abundance rather than scarcity, seeing other people's success as inspiration rather than competition. This perspective transforms how you approach your own goals and challenges. Instead of thinking, "I need to get mine before someone else takes it," you start thinking, "How can we all win together?" Instead of hiding your struggles because you're afraid of looking weak, you start sharing your journey because you know it might help someone else who's facing similar challenges. When you truly understand that individual success contributes to collective success and vice versa, you stop seeing life as a zero-sum game. You start celebrating others' victories as evidence of what's possible. You start sharing your own wins as inspiration for others, and you begin to see your personal growth not just as something that benefits you, but as a contribution to the well-being of everyone in your sphere of influence. Real-life evidence. These patterns aren't just theories, they're principles you can see working in the lives of people around you every day. The focused attention pattern in action. Steve Jobs didn't become successful because he was the most technically skilled person in tech. He became successful because he was obsessed with focusing on user experience when everyone else was focused on technical specifications. His relentless focus on what really mattered created products that changed the world. Oprah didn't become a media mogul because she was the most qualified journalist. She became successful because she focused on connecting with people's stories and emotions when everyone else was focused on just delivering news. Her focus on human connection created a media empire. The energy pattern in real life. Think about the most successful salesperson you know. They probably don't use high-pressure tactics or manipulation. Instead, they genuinely care about helping people find solutions, and that authentic energy makes people want to work with them. Or consider teachers who have amazing classroom management without being strict disciplinarians. They bring an energy of respect and care that students naturally respond to, creating cooperation without force. The worthiness pattern at work. Look at people who consistently have great relationships. They're not necessarily the most attractive or charming people, but they carry themselves like someone who deserves to be treated well, and that's exactly how people treat them. Notice how some people get promoted quickly in their careers, while others stay stuck despite being equally qualified. The ones who advance usually have an internal sense that they belong in leadership positions, while those who stay stuck often doubt their own capabilities. The non-desperation principle. Watch how dating works. The people who are most attractive to others are usually those who are genuinely happy with their lives and would like to share them with someone, rather than those who desperately need a relationship to feel complete. In business, the entrepreneurs who build sustainable companies are usually those who are solving problems they care about, not those who are just desperate to get rich quick. The harmony pattern. Consider athletes who perform at their peak. They're not just physically skilled, they have mental clarity and emotional balance that allows them to access their full potential under pressure. Look at people who have built businesses they love. They've usually aligned their work with their values and strengths, creating success that feels natural rather than forced. The give and receive pattern. Notice how the most successful networkers aren't the ones constantly asking for favors, but the ones who consistently offer value to others. They build relationships by helping first, and that generosity comes back to them multiplied. Watch how customer service works. Companies that genuinely care about their customers' experience create loyal advocates who refer new business. Companies that only care about profit create customers who leave at the first opportunity. The collective success pattern. Look at thriving neighborhoods, successful companies, or high-performing teams. Success becomes contagious when people are surrounded by others who are also committed to excellence. Notice how entrepreneurs often come from cities or communities where entrepreneurship is common. Being around others who are building businesses makes starting a business seem normal and achievable. These patterns are operating in your life right now, whether you're conscious of them or not. The question is whether you'll use them intentionally to create the life you want, or continue experiencing their effects unconsciously. Now that you understand these 7 patterns, here's exactly how to apply them to transform your daily experience. The morning reset. Pattern 1. Focused attention. Before you check your phone, spend 5 minutes setting your mental focus for the day. Instead of immediately diving into problems and distractions, consciously choose what you want to create. Ask yourself, what do I want to focus on today? Maybe it's opportunities, solutions, connections with people, or progress on your goals. Whatever you choose, spend a few minutes visualizing and feeling what success would look like. This isn't about pretending problems don't exist. It's about training your brain to notice possibilities and solutions instead of just obstacles and complaints. The energy check. Pattern 2. Your energy affects everything. Throughout the day, pause and ask yourself, what energy am I bringing to this situation? Before important conversations, meetings, or interactions, take a moment to shift into the energy you want to broadcast. If you want people to feel comfortable around you, get comfortable with yourself first. If you want to be taken seriously, take yourself seriously first. Remember, people respond to your energy before they respond to your words. The worthiness upgrade. Pattern 3. You receive what you believe you deserve. Start treating yourself the way you'd treat someone you deeply respect. Stop the internal criticism and start speaking to yourself like a good friend would. When opportunities arise, instead of immediately thinking, why would they choose me? Start thinking, this could be perfect for me. Train yourself to expect good things instead of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Practice receiving compliments, help, and good things without deflecting or feeling like you owe something in return. The detachment practice. Pattern 4. Desperation repels. When you catch yourself forcing or pushing too hard, stop and ask, am I approaching this from trust or fear? Replace, I need this to work out, with, I'm excited to see how this unfolds. Replace, I have to get this job heart relationship opportunity with, I'm curious to see if this is a good fit for both of us. This doesn't mean not caring about outcomes. It means staying open to possibilities you hadn't considered and trusting that the right things will happen at the right time. The alignment check. Pattern 5. Internal harmony. Before making important decisions, ask yourself, does this choice align with who I really am and what I actually want? Stop saying yes to things that drain you just to avoid disappointing others. Stop pursuing goals that don't actually matter to you just because they look impressive. When your choices match your values and your actions match your intentions, you'll find that life requires much less effort and produces much better results. The golden rule applied. Pattern 6. What you give comes back. In every interaction, ask yourself, how can I add value here? Or, how can I make this person's day a little better? This might mean being fully present in conversations, following through on small commitments, or offering help without being asked. Keep your promises to yourself and others. Show up on time. Do what you say you'll do. Treat everyone with basic respect and kindness. The celebration practice. Pattern 7. Collective success. When good things happen to people around you, genuinely celebrate their success instead of comparing or feeling threatened. When you achieve something, share it with gratitude rather than hiding it out of false modesty or fear of making others feel bad. Surround yourself with people who are doing things you admire and be the kind of person others would want to surround themselves with. The daily integration. Each evening, Reflect on which patterns you used consciously that day and which ones you want to focus on tomorrow. This isn't about perfection. It's about gradually becoming more intentional about how you show up in the world. Start with whichever pattern feels most relevant to your current situation. If you're struggling with confidence, focus on worthiness. If you feel stuck, focus on attention and energy. If relationships are difficult, focus on what you're giving others. As these patterns become more natural, you'll notice that life starts flowing more easily. Opportunities appear more frequently. People respond to you differently. Problems are resolved more quickly. This isn't magic, it's simply aligning yourself with how reality actually works. Conclusion. You now understand something that most people never learn, that your outer world is constantly reflecting your inner world back to you. The 7 patterns we've explored aren't just nice ideas, they're practical principles that determine whether your life feels easy or difficult, abundant or scarce, connected or lonely. Focused attention means your brain finds evidence for whatever you consistently think about. Energy management means people respond to how you feel before they respond to what you say. Worthiness means you can't receive more than you believe you deserve. Non-desperation means needing something too much pushes it away. Internal harmony means aligning your thoughts, feelings, and actions create external flow. Give and receive means treating others well, programs the world to treat you well. Collective success means your thriving makes it easier for others to thrive, and vice versa. These patterns are operating in your life right now. The only question is whether you'll use them consciously to create what you want, or continue experiencing their effects unconsciously. The people who seem naturally lucky aren't living by different rules, they're just more aligned with these universal patterns. They focus on possibilities instead of problems. They manage their energy instead of letting it manage them. They believe they deserve good things. They pursue their goals from trust rather than desperation. They make choices that align with their values. They treat others the way they want to be treated. And they celebrate success wherever they find it. You have the same capacity. You always have. The only difference is that now you understand how to access it. Your extraordinary life isn't waiting for perfect conditions, more resources, or permission from others. It's waiting for you to align with these patterns and start operating by the rules that actually create success and fulfillment. The choice is entirely yours. The patterns are available to everyone, but only you can decide to use them intentionally. Your life is not happening to you, it's happening through you. Every moment you're either consciously creating your reality or unconsciously repeating old patterns. The 7 patterns are your roadmap. Focus on what you want to see more of. Manage the energy you bring to every situation. Believe you deserve good things. Trust instead of forcing. Align your choices with your values. Give what you want to receive. Celebrate success everywhere you find it. Your consciousness is the control panel. Your energy is the signal. Your worthiness is the frequency. Your harmony with these patterns is your destiny. The blueprint has been revealed. The choice is yours. The time is now.